Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Atlantic City here from New Jersey. My name is Marshall Sutcliffe and I'm in the booth with Nate Price. We have Ben Stark on the right-hand side of your screen, hailing out of Florida. Take a look at Ben there as he nervously shuffles his deck. You can see.
He didn't get much sleep last night.
I assure you that he is not actually nervous, though. And there's Timothy Bergner, and they're going to be battling here in round 14. We're getting right down the stretch of this tournament here, and people are starting to become eliminated from top 8 contention as we enter these last final rounds of Swiss.
Yeah, Ben apparently didn't get much sleep last night. Had a really hard time sleeping, and was not feeling too hot when he came into the building this morning. Slightly mentally a little bit better, but he was exhausted, and so. It's awesome to see that he's been able to string together the number of wins that he's got. I mean, man is good. He won Grand Prix Indy just about a month ago. Clearly
in his
limited
native
master
format of limited, yeah.
Playing against a fellow Floridian limited master in the finals there. I always love watching players who play with the mana sleeve decks or the guild deck sleeves to
to throw off other people?
Whether they are, whether they're not. I mean, more often than not, I would have bet
both players have mulliganed to 6 here. And it looks like Ben's going to have to go down to 5. And Timothy looks like he's keeping.
Well, I know one of these players is on junk. Not sure about the other one. I'm imagining it's probably Ben that's on junk, but it's mulligans are an ever-present part of the game. Like you can't get away from them, and it's something Zach Hill and I were talking about yesterday. We talked about sideboarding and talked about mulliganing as being the 2 places that people make the most mistakes in Magic, because it's very difficult to make the proper decision. Like hands can look good, but they're not nearly as good as they were. And Ben knows how to mulligan. He taught LSV how to mulligan in Limited. So,
yeah, mulligans also deal with some basic psychology that is hard to get around for human beings. All right, Diagraph Ghoul is going to lead things off for Timothy Bergner, and we see Overgrown Tomb into Temple Garden both tap for Ben Stark, so he's got all his colors here, assuming that he's on the junk plan.
He's got a Centaur Healer in his hand as well, so as long as he's got that 3rd land, I think he does see an Isolated Chapel in his hand.
Rakdos Guildgate for Timothy Bergner, and it's going to be a Centaur Healer right back for Ben Stark, so that's a really nice addition to his board here. It's going to block that Diagraph Ghoul, and it's going to gain back 3 life. Now, well, that's going to change a little bit because I see that Timothy has
the Spear.
Well, he's got a Spear, but he's also got a
Knight
of Infamy as well. And the Spear is, though, going to take out the Centaur Healer, and he's going to battle in there with his Diagraph Ghoul for 2 days. Don't think he has a follow-up play, so he's going to ship the turn back. And let's see what Ben Stark has. He's got another Centaur Healer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is pretty reasonable for Ben on a mulligan to 5 here.
Couldn't ask for a better open against Black-Red.
Looking pretty good. Looks like we're going to see a Dreadbore main deck.
Card you don't see getting as much play as
it's an interesting
you'd expect,
addition.
but I like that card right now. Like as prevalent as Garrick is, and I mean the only creatures you can't really kill with it are in the Black-Red decks, and it's just the ones that are indestructible. People playing more Angel Serenity too, just like 2 mana answer to that card is very strong.
That's nice. Now, it being a sorcery is certainly detrimental, but are we going to see a Thragtusk here from Ben? We are. So, Thragtusk for Ben Stark. He's gained a total of 11 life this game. And we see that Timothy has drawn a Pillar of Flame to go with a Gravecrawler and a Swamp in his hand. And all of a sudden, Ben Stark looks like he's in a pretty good position.
Yeah.
He can force Timothy to trade off one of his creatures for his Thragtusk. And we know who wins that battle.
Timothy has to make a careful decision here because if he attacks
if he attacks with both,
I doubt he does that.
He's going to just straight up lose a guy. If he attacks with one, he's going to lose a guy. the trade for Thragtusk, and it looks like he's just like, yeah, I got to do it. But Ben Stark says, I'm just going to take it.
He's at a really high life total.
He is. He drops him back down to 21, and Ben just wants to start attacking. He doesn't want to lose his Thragtusk because he thinks it's just the best attacker here, and he's got an Arbor Elf to follow up.
Well, which is actually
a fine blocker.
Very funny considering now Timothy's going to have to actually consider burning that away with his Pillar of Flame before he attacks to make sure that he doesn't lose his own Knight of Infamy. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's also 4 mana up, and we know what that signals when the opponent's playing white.
Yeah, but it looks like he doesn't care, and sure enough, it's a Restoration Angel for Ben Stark. It's going to hit the Thragtusk. I mean, this was pretty telegraphed, but it looks like Timothy decided, you know, what is he going to do, just sit there forever and taking hits from Thragtusk? I guess not.
I'm just amazed at the 5-card hand that Ben had.
Yeah, Ben had a sweet hand.
This is exactly what
he went healer, Thragtusk, Restoration Angel on the Thragtusk, and a foil Geralf's Messenger for Timothy Bergner is going to drop Ben Stark down to 24.
Yeah.
Ben Stark is firmly in the driver's seat here. He's got 11 power on the board as well, and Timothy Bergner has no blockers whatsoever. And it looks like Ben Stark is going to be able to steal one. He taps the top of his deck. I'm not sure what he's hoping for here, though. I mean, what's the best thing he could draw?
Probably a...
We could think it through, but it's not super...
Like one of his flyers, yeah.
I guess he could play a Falconwrath Aristocrat or something to hold down the fort, but...
Yeah.
Man. Ben Stark very calmly, very casually mulligans to 5 and just stomps his opponent.
And it's the strength of mulliganing.
Fantastic draw.
Like, why would you keep a hand that doesn't do what you want it to do? I mean, you don't. The chances of you getting the perfect 5-card hand aren't that great. But if your 6-card hand isn't awesome, like,
would you have attacked there?
With into the Angel? Mm-hmm. At that point, you didn't have a choice.
Okay.
Like he's losing, and he's. I mean,
it depends on like Ben had it, right? Ben attacked with his Thragtusk.
Yeah, like he was going to be taking that crack back regardless.
He didn't. Ben did not block with his Thragtusk.
No.
Like this was a pretty well telegraphed play. Ben also just felt fine with telegraphing it because he knows that his opponent can't really do anything about it anyway.
Yeah, that was going to be rough regardless.
Yeah, I mean, if he just didn't attack, or if he just decided to attack with one creature. He's still in a really tough spot.
Yeah, and even if your opponent's telegraphing the Angel right there, when he mulligans to 5 and has a single card in hand, like the chances that it's an Angel aren't particularly high.
Yeah, he's only got the 1 card left.
Yeah, I mean, you only play around cards when they matter. So at that point, if you're losing to Angel anyway, you attack like your opponent doesn't have it.
Sure.
But
tough spot there for Timothy, as it seemed pretty clear that Ben had the Restoration Angel, but
yeah,
what are you going to do?
Rely on your 4 and 5 mana haste, guys. Like, that's all you can do in that situation is hope that one of them springs forth from the deck to save you. But even then, you're still putting yourself in a kind of rough spot. Like, the best draw for him there was probably a Falconwrath Aristocrat, because he would have been, I mean, his Gravecrawler's not doing anything other than becoming indestructible fodder. So, but even still, he's in a rough spot.
I only had one of my opening, and I drew the second one 2 or something.
So like, Ben's deck certainly has the cards in it to mulligan well. This matchup, I can only imagine there aren't too terribly many dead cards. His creatures that gain life are important. I mean, the rough draws are when he draws like multiple Thragtusks and no way to accelerate. But when you're running Arbor Elf, Avacyn's Pilgrim, and Farseek in your deck, having the ability to mulligan into one of those cards, like the number of permutations of hands you can draw that don't suck is fairly high, actually.
Sure.
Which is ironic, because I think that there are probably more draws out of the Zombies deck that are worse than there are out of Ben's deck off of Mulligan. I mean, the deck is very bookends-ish. Like, you've got the very cheap creatures,
and
then the very expensive
and the 4s
creatures.
and 5s, yeah.
And so if you draw just the, I mean, your perfect draws, one of your end game cards and a few of your early game cards to start off. But I mean, if you skew the other direction, have end game stuff, depending on how your opponent draws, And if they're playing an aggressive deck, you're kind of boned.
Yeah.
But
You're good enough. Like if John Finkel comes back today, he can get on the train.
But it's like you were saying, he doesn't have the time to devote to like getting.
looks like our other match finished fairly quickly, as to be expected. We knew that the Aura's deck is just capable of that. It wins or it loses fast. Just goes.
You mean the first game?
Yeah, sorry, the first game. Yeah, misspoke. Match isn't ended, but
Yeah.
the game certainly is.
We would assume that Josh Layton is up a game there.
Possibly.
I mean, his deck is fast.
He wins fast or he loses fast.
True. That is true. It does both.
Yeah, it's a combo deck. That's exactly what happens. Like, he either gets there or he fizzles and dies. And let's see, what's his opponent playing? Chad is playing Jund. Yes! I'm so happy to see Jund. But I'd be willing to bet Jund probably didn't put it to him quickly. So, yeah, if that game is over, it's more than likely because Josh Layton took that one home. Jund is a deck that you don't see very often nowadays, which is kind of unfortunate. It's running the same creature base generally that Naya is, but Naya tends to run the reason you play Naya over playing Jund is so you have access to Restoration Angel and potentially to a Centaur Healer if you want it in the field format based on that. The Jund goes the other direction and runs for the black removal, so you see stuff like you get to play Abrupt Decay, you get to play the ultimate prices, you get to play Tragic Slips. You also get to play Olivia, which is really good in a mid-rangey type of field. In fact, it's good enough that you see a lot of Naya decks. There's an entire deck type we've been calling Naya Black that's just the Naya shell that runs black potentially for like slaughter games out of the sideboard.
Yep.
You also get Olivia, Voldaren, either main deck or sideboard. Rakdos' Return. Yeah.
All right, looks like Ben is doing an extremely thorough job of randomizing his magical cards here.
Timothy Bergner is running an old school version of Zombies.
Cards.
It's running a higher number of removal spells than we're used to seeing, a lower number of the top end, rather than running like a 4-4-3 complement of Hellriders, Aristocrats, and Hellkites. He's running a 4-3-2. So we're seeing a couple less of those.
All right, play is away here. Ben Stark's up a game, but a Gravecrawler for turn one from Timothy Bergner is going to start to lay the beats. And it looks like, yeah, Ben Stark says, I'm just going to take the 2 here, play my Temple Garden untapped so that I can get down a turn 1 Arbor Elf.
Yeah, Ben's junk deck is the full junk reanimator deck that I'm a very large fan of.
All right, attack with Gravecrawler, 16 for Ben Stark, so he's already taken 4. And Dragon Skull Summit into a Diagraph Ghoul, and is there another 1-drop incoming? There is. It's a second Diagraph Ghoul, so all of a sudden Timothy has 6 power on the table versus only 1 for Ben Stark, so he's going to need to play something pretty sweet here on his turn 2. Could it be a Centaur Healer? No, he's just going to attack first with his Elf, and he's going to play 2 more Elves, so all of a sudden it's a mana versus power fight here.
Oh my
6 power versus 5, potentially 6 mana on turn 3 for Ben Stark. What is he going to do? Is he going to ramp out a Angel of Serenity here or something?
Maybe. I mean, it might just be play Thragtusk like that. Playing Thragtusk is pretty solid in this situation. I mean, we do see that Tim's got a
he's got
Brimstone Volley and
Searing
2
Spear,
Spears.
Yeah, and a Brimstone plus something else.
But even still, the extra 5 life that Ben gains, he's going to end up with a 3/3 back in play, so he can do a little bit of blocking.
Ben did not block.
There's no sense in...
And I think that he's trying to decide if he wants to Searing Spear one of these Elves, and he does indeed. The fact that Ben didn't block at all, signify that maybe he wants that extra mana.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're going to see a Thragtusk from Ben Stark. We do indeed. It's going to put him back up to 15 and help stabilize his board quite a bit.
I don't really like that Searing Spear.
Oh, you don't?
Not really. If Ben's got a land, like you're basically hedging whether or not Ben's got a 5th or 3rd land, because if you need, that he's going for a 5th mana source, really, for that Thragtusk.
Yeah.
If he's got it, then you just, it's not a waste to kill that, but you're going to need that Searing Spear after the fact because your opponent has that Thragtusk.
All right, attack with everything, and Thragtusk is going to jump in front of one of the Diagraph Ghouls to make it so that Ben's only going to take 4 here, although it looks like Timothy's making a decision here.
Searing Spear, keep your guy alive, negate the combat.
And that does seem to be what he's thinking about. He's got to decide if he wants to keep these burn spells to go to the dome. I believe he's missing his land drop again here, which means that a Morbid Brimstone Volley is not part of the plan. So he indeed is going to take out the Thrag Tusk. Ben Stark gets his token. He takes 4 damage this turn, but Timothy gets to keep his Diagraph Ghoul. All right, he does have a land. It's a Cavern of Souls.
The decision, I think he's got a Vampire Nighthawk in his hand, and I think the decision was whether or not to let it die and then play the Nighthawk after combat.
Okay. So does Ben Stark have maybe another Thrag Tusk here? What has he got?
There are a few things he could have.
Players in Legacy Winbox number
He does have the ability to sit back on defense at some point also and just start activating that Gavany Township.
All right, so it looks like Ben just decided to attack with his 3/3. His 3/3 Beast token, and then he made a Centaur Healer and played a land tap so he doesn't take any damage. He does have a Gavany Township there, though. He's going to be able to start activating that next turn.
He's leaving him some combination of green, white, and black mana open. He's got the ability to play 2 of any of those. Is his deck running any of
Does he have a Selesnya Charm in his deck? What does he have?
I don't see one. Abrupt Decay, he certainly has.
Abrupt Decay is in his deck?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything will work. Doesn't need to be a beast. Even a random magic card could be fine. Something I can tap.
Other than that,
they're trying to get a token for Ben here because the dice isn't good at showing whether it's tapped or not.
It's not to mention the fact that it's a dark color on dark color die.
Yeah.
Shows up
All right, there it is. It
well.
says Beast. It's a 3/3, and that is clearly tapped. All right, foil Vampire Nighthawk for Timothy.
Yeah, this looks like an Abrupt Decay.
He's going to untap. It is indeed Abrupt Decay, and it's going to take down that Vampire Nighthawk, and it's going to put Ben in the driver's seat here. He's actually got 11 power and toughness here if he wants to. Well, he needs a land to do this to make the full 11, but to activate his Gavany Township.
Yeah, I think what you do, send your 3/3s here and then do pass the attack. Let your opponent make the decision to double block if he wants to, and then activate your Gavany Township.
Yeah.
Or you do nothing.
Timothy has no blocks here because of the Gavany Township. He doesn't want to trade 2 of his Diagraph Ghouls. And the Gravecrawler just can't block at all.
Now we pass the turn, waits, and see what Timothy does. I'd imagine pass the turn. No reason not to get in with that guy, I suppose. Oh my, did not.
Wow, so he's actually not on the Gavany Township plan. He's on the Restoration Angel plan. He is now going to block the Gravecrawler after gaining the 3 life from the now untapped Centaur Healer. And it's looking pretty bad for Timothy Bergner here. He's going to replay Gravecrawler. He can take out the Angel.
Yeah, that was a
Brimstone Volley.
That was a rock and a hard place decision too, because if he didn't actually attack there, I don't think Ben plays. I mean, Ben definitely doesn't play that Angel at that point. He just uses his mana to pump his team.
Oh, I see. Yeah, Brimstone Volley is in fact going to take out the Restoration Angel, but Timothy's still in just an awful position, the same one he was in before, and it looks like he's going to get attacked with all of Ben's creatures.
Yeah. Now he has no choice but to.
He can take 8 damage if he wants to ensure that those 2 Diagraph Ghouls trade off for those 2 Mana Elves, but then where's he at?
Yeah, and if he decides to double block, he loses 1, takes 8 damage still.
Starting without you.
He is going to do it this way, so activate Gavany Township. He's going to take 8 damage, and both of these 2 creatures are going to trade off with each other.
The number of outs he has here is...
Ben Stark is sitting in a good position. Timothy again taps the top of his deck. I'm not sure what he's hoping for, but right now Timothy's sitting at 2 with no blockers on board, so he's going to need maybe a card that's not even in his deck to get him out of this one.
I mean, yeah, at this point... Yeah.
All right, he says, you got it, and extends the hand. And Ben Stark says, what did you have?
This is one of the reasons I like this deck so much that Ben's playing, is because it has the ability to simply play out like a standard fair Magic deck and do the things that it did as we saw in this match, but it also has that Reanimator plan in it, so it can just explosively blow someone out with a Crater Hoof Behemoth.
Let's take a look over at the other match here.
All right, so that's an Avacyn's Pilgrim that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's an 8 power, first strike, trample. 8/6, first strike, trample.
And it looks like it's going to be blocking a Ravager of the Fells here.
Okay.
Welcome to Magic, everybody. We tune in right away to see a huge Avacyn's Pilgrim doing work and a Thragtusk follow-up play here.
Completely emptying Chad's hand.
What's your guys' record over here? You X2 as well?
Oh my. Combination of Kessig Wolfrun and Vampire Nighthawk is a pretty solid way to make sure that you stay in this game as well.
Absolutely. Gain huge chunks of life.
Negate the huge chunks your opponent's going to take out of them, assuming they're on the offensive. This does not look like a situation when Utter Leighton is able to be on the offensive.
It looks like Chad is going for the full beatdowns. Josh instantly blocks the Thragtusk with his huge Avacyn's Pilgrim, but we're going to see some Kessig Wolfrun on the Wolf.
Appropriate.
I suppose. It doesn't gain him any life, but he's sitting at 29, so I guess he's not worried at all, and he'd rather, just in case Josh has something like Celestia Charm or whatever, put the Wolf at risk as opposed to the Vampire Nighthawk, which is going to gain him 2 life in this case anyway.
Joel Escher for booster draft number 48. Please report.
It looks like Chad's in a commanding position here, although Raptor does have a huge Avacyn's Pilgrim there.
But it's not going to be huge enough, and he's at 1 life. I don't know what he has available to him to get him out of this situation right now.
He's just
feeling
past
of
the turn
dread
back.
Buys him some time.
Yeah, feeling of dread would buy him a little bit of time, but unfortunately it's not very good, and Josh just has to scoop up his cards. Again, feeling of dread can tap down 2 creatures there, but with Kessig Wolfrun, Chad really only needs 1.
Yeah. That's certainly, well, I mean, tapping down 2 creatures prevents him from attacking through. So the first strike will kill off anything that gets to attack. So
yeah, so if he taps down the flyer and the non-flyer, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's basically just a brief fog, but if Chad gets anything else onto the table at that point, the game is strictly over.
Yeah.
Kessig Wolfrun.
All right, we're going to get a game 3 out of our side match here at
Let's
Grand Prix Atlantic City.
take a look through these decks. I mean, we've already taken a fairly strong look at this Auras deck that Josh is running. This is the first time we've gotten to see Jund actually play. It looks fairly similar to the Naya shell that we see.
It does.
It's got
this reminds me of it a lot.
The Huntmaster, the Fells, Thragtusk, Farseek, like that, the mana generation engine. It's got a couple of Deathrite Shamans, I would imagine primarily for the Black-Red matchup. Seems like the most important point. And also in against Reanimator.
Okay.
Fairly strong. It's got Olivia Voldaren to serve double duty with that Huntmaster, the Fells, to kind of take over the mid-range decks. Its removal suite, it's got a single copy of Dreadbore. Fills double duty. Actually does a very good job of killing off creatures. It's a little bit slow, but I'd imagine that it's the reason it is in there more than anything else, and it's not just another copy of like Abrupt Decay or Ultimate Price, is the fact that it can kill those Planeswalkers, which you will see occasionally. Then, yeah, it does have the aforementioned Abrupt Decay, Searing Spear, and Ultimate Price. Single copy of Staff of Nin. I know that you were pretty happy about seeing that card yesterday. Well, what all does Staff of Nin do? Staff of Nin does a lot of stuff, right?
Well, yeah, it pings a lot of relevant creatures, and it draws you cards. I mean, basically, it's just a fuel the hand in this deck, and yeah, this deck looks like it has a few different ways near the top end to grab a bunch of cards. Garrett Primal Hunters and Staff of Nin certainly can keep it moving. The Olivia Voldaren is particularly powerful here. You mentioned it all weekend that, just make short work of these mid-range decks, and looks like having 3, which is really the most that you'd normally want to play of a legendary creature.
Yeah.
Is he's maxed out on those.
Now,
this has a lot more removal in it than the Naya versions for sure.
Definitely, and it's actually better suited in this matchup than the Naya deck is by far, because it runs Liliana of the Veil on the sideboard, which we don't see too much Liliana in this format because of the fact that the creature decks tend to run, like they defeat opponents with multiple threats. And you've always got some sort of backup to keep your big beaters alive through Liliana's abilities. And then with the, Liliana's great against the control decks, but it's just with the amount of aggro and mid-range around, it's just not as strong. But it clearly is going to be very good in this sideboard or out of the sideboard.
Talk to us a little bit about Rakdos's return. What do you think about that?
I like Rakdos's return a lot. Like I mean, the card is obviously very powerful. I mean, it's just strictly, if nothing else, a straight burn spell and a straight discard spell. Completely empties opponent's hands. It's in the mid game, it can completely take a game over. It's how you are going to stabilize. Against the control matchups, it serves as an excellent foil to the Sphinx's Revelation.
Sure.
If you can pop it off before they get to Revelation and actually get it to resolve, you're going to, more often than not, just completely lock them out of the game. And they have the ability to draw into those Revelations later, but all it's going to do is negate what you've already done to them and puts them behind, actually. It's not too bad in... I mean, more often than not, like you see people tending to sit around 3-4 cards at their hand during the course of these games. So as soon as you get to 4 or 5 mana and get to fire it off at somebody, you're generally going to be able to wipe their hand away. It's not so awesome that people run like more than 2 or so in the main deck, but it's great. And it just provides. It's the Bloodbraid Elf of this incarnation of Jund. It's the way that you're able to...
The big hit to get you that big card advantage.
It's the inflection point of the game. Like it flips you around right there.
All right, looks like players are going to resolve mulligans here. And I believe that Raptor is taking a mulligan.
We do get to see some pretty sweet sideboard cards in Chad's deck. We've already mentioned the Liliana of the Veil. Rolling Temblors in the deck. I don't think it comes in this matchup per se, but it's a pretty solid card, especially in the field when you're expecting to see a bunch of 2/2 zombies running around.
Yeah.
Nice way to clear things out. I like his Vraska the Unseen. That card is fairly solid. It's very rare in this matchup, unfortunately, that people are going to attack Vraska when she hits down. But even still, Vraska's minus ability is basically Vindicate,
It's
right?
Vindicate, yeah.
So while you can't hit opponents' creatures, you do get an opportunity to hit the things that make the creatures relevant, which is the enchantments. And if you can slow your opponent down, I mean, I know she costs 5 mana. Card's pretty solid. And against the control matchups especially, she's just really powerful.
Yeah.
Really powerful.
You can't destroy lands with Vraska, but otherwise...
No. Yeah.
So it's almost Vindicate.
Almost. I'll count it. Yeah, Liliana of the Veil is really the big card that's going to come in to help things out in this matchup. I guess you could bring in like Slaughter Games, but that seems like a waste. That card's purely for ban control.
Yeah, it's interesting
the
because
blue-white base decks.
If you could get that Slaughter Games off sooner, then it would be fantastic because there's actually not that many things in Joshua Layton's deck. Like he's only got the Geist and the Invisible Stalkers, but you know, otherwise he's forced to put everything on like a like an Avacyn's Pilgrim.
Something
like
that can die.
I mean, the problem is that he can just dump all those things down before you can Slaughter Games, and then it's irrelevant. So.
Exactly.
Not a good sideboard card here, I don't think.
Josh's deck takes advantage of the fact that everyone needed to switch to targeted removal to slow the format down some, and getting one of those threats out that your opponent can't actually kill is rough. So it's going to come down to whether or not Chad can get a clear path for his Liliana to hit play. Or in that as we saw in that last match, just simply put enough pressure on Josh that Josh can't be on the offensive. But looks like Chad doesn't like his opening hand, and is going to go back and start this next game with 6.
I think this is his second mulligan.
This is his second mulligan?
Yeah, I think he's going to 5
That's
here.
unfortunate. Yeah, the Jund decks don't, like, this Jund deck doesn't mulligan incredibly well.
Okay.
You've got the same advantages, I guess, that the Junk deck has in the fact that you've got the, like, mana acceleration and the endgame stuff, but your cards just aren't as powerful on their own, and you don't have an you don't have the ability to just get punchy out of a mulligan. You don't have as many perfect hands out as you do in the junk deck. Because, I mean, what's he looking for here in a 5-card hand? What would be ideal for him? Liliana, a Mana Accelerator, and I mean, do you maybe an Abrupt Decay?
Mm-hmm. Abrupt Decay is
pretty
fantastic.
reasonable start.
One of the few ways that Chad can interact, maybe take out like one of the auras on Josh's creature in combat and actually enable a profitable block. You know, not a whole lot of ways to do it.
Yeah.
All right, so 5 for Chad Castle here. Let's see what he gets. He says he keeps, so turn 1 Abundant Growth for Josh Hunter Layton.
And a reader.
Chad's going to read it because, again, this card hasn't seen a lot of playing constructed. Well, make sure you tap. There we go. And a Blood Crypt tapped for Chad Castle. See if Josh can start applying some pressure early here in the third game of their match. Both at 11 and 2. Certainly a critical one, and it's going to be a Strangleroot Geist bashing in there for 2 against Chad.
May pick up a Rancor here in a minute.
Chad just passes the turn back. Looks like Josh is just going to attack. Doesn't want to play Rancor into Abrupt Decay here and lose his Rancor.
That pause there from Chad is going to get Raptor to think that he might actually have that Abrupt Decay. Because it looked like he might have been considering either using it or Ultimate Price to get rid of that attack.
Yeah, I noticed that myself. Now, Geist of St. Trap for Josh or Layton is going to put the onus on Chad to do something here. Doesn't have Liliana of the Veil mana, so that's not an option. But he does have Bonfire of the Damned. It's going to take out the Strangleroot Geist, but he's going to take a big hit this turn.
Yeah.
9 damage at least. If Josh wants to commit a few auras to the board as well, he can really get out of hand.
I can't see a reason he wouldn't.
Yeah, he has his opponent on a 2-turn clock, however, so maybe he's just content with that, and he's just going to battle here for 9. He's going to drop Chad all the way down to 7, and he's got Garruk Relentless to make a Beast token.
Wolf.
Excuse me, a Wolf token, and Chad Castle's under tons of pressure. This mulligan to 5 seems to have really crippled him, as he just hasn't even made a play yet.
No. No, and his deck doesn't have the board sweeping capabilities of like a Bant control deck. I mean, he's got the Bonfires. He's got at least 1 more copy of Bonfire in his deck, but
yeah, it's just
it needed to be a miracle.
Yeah, the playing a Bonfire just to take a thing. All right, so he's got Olivia Voldaren, which is a reasonable play here, but it looks like he's under a ton of pressure because he can just kill Olivia with his Garruk and then attack for lethal. So that's going to be it.
Not when your deck is full of cards.
The guilds of Ravnica continue plotting, so myopic in their quest for power that they're unaware of our machinations. Under my stewardship, House Demir will assume dominion over this city. Toward that end, the Simic's ability to evolve and adapt could prove an asset. They breed new predators without thought to the prey they might hunt. And the marginalized rule. The clan's explosive violence can provide the finest cover for our covert dealings. The Orzhov Syndicate skillfully restored the facade of piety, but are driven as ever by base pursuits of wealth and power. Throughout, my Demir agents hear all and see all, gathering secrets from the shadows, never attracting the attention of those righteous enforcers known as the Boros Legion. Its platoons will be kept busy with other, less subtle crimes. My path will be made clear. No one of this world can stop me.